Welcome to another episode of Stay Paid. I'm Joshua Stike along with Luke Acree. And man, we got a rock star on this episode of Stay Paid.
Yeah, superstar. I was actually looking at why I paused. I was looking at my LaCroix or LaCroix. How do you pronounce this?
I don't know. LaCroix?
LaCroix? Ariel, how do you pronounce this? LaCroix?
I would say LaCroix.
LaCroix. And I was just like, oh man, my LaCroix, is it in the right position? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if we should have our water bottles in the frame.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what you guys
LaCroix, if you listen to this, we're sponsored. We want to be sponsored by you.
Only sponsored beverages will make it into the frame from this point forward.
Yeah, we're not big enough.
You guys are only going to be drinking water from now.
Yeah, but speaking of being sponsored, I don't know what we're going to do to transition into Gusty, but we want to sponsor Gusty because he is that good.
Gusty's amazing. He leads a team of 30 agents, which you'll hear in the interview here. The number of transactions he's doing, I think it's over 400 euros, 850 in the last 2 years alone.
He did 422, I want to say, in 2020, in the pandemic.
Yeah, so we're going to get into leadership. We're going to get into this idea of being omnipresent. We're going to get into this idea. If you're leading a small team or you're thinking about starting a team or growing a team, you're definitely going to want to stick around for this episode. But before we introduce him, we would love it if you take a minute to subscribe to Stay Paid on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you're not already. And while you're there, drop us a review to let us know how we're doing, and we will read it on the show. This week's featured review comes from the best username I've ever heard on Apple Podcasts.
Oh.
Stay Paid is amazing. They created a username on Apple Podcasts just to drop us a review. They say, great podcast, 2 thumbs up with 5-star rating. Very good podcast. Has many helpful tips for marketing.
Oh, so thank you very much.
It was short. It was sweet. And as I said before, it was super neat. So thank you very much. Stay Paid is amazing for leaving that review. Please head on over to Apple Podcasts and let us know how we're doing yourself so we can read it on the show. And now let's get into this week's episode.
From ReminderMedia, this is Stay Paid, a sales and marketing podcast on a mission to help you close more deals and retain more business. Hosted by the VP of Marketing, Josh Stike, and ReminderMedia's president, Luke Acree. So get ready to hear the golden nuggets that will allow you to live a life of freedom tomorrow, but only if you take action today.
All right, let's welcome in Gusty Gulas. He is the team leader of the Gusty Gulas Group, Birmingham's #1 team in homes sold since 2012. And in the last 2 years, Gusty's team has sold over 850 homes. In addition, he's the past president for Birmingham Association of Realtors and is currently on the National Association of Realtors Board of Directors, having won many industry awards, such as 2020's Realtor of the Year for Birmingham. Gusty is currently the top-rated realtor on Zillow, Google, and Facebook with the highest rating and most reviews for his area. Wow. Gusty, welcome to the podcast.
Man, thanks so much, y'all, for having me. Glad to be here.
Yep, Gusty, awesome to have you on. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk to you. Would love for you to share kind of your story. I mean, we just read some of the accolades. The numbers are ridiculous, right? Some people don't reach that in their whole career, and you're doing it in two years with your team. Can you share kind of the 30,000-foot view of how you got into real estate and then the team and what led you to where you're at today?
Yeah, sure. Well, I tell you, real estate was not where I was supposed to be at, I guess. I just kind of like haphazardly got into it. Out of college, my major was actually radio management. And so I wanted to do something, really in the music industry, and did my internship on Music Row in Nashville and learned how cutthroat the music industry was. And so really after that point, I just wanted to graduate and find a job. And so I ended up, after college, I went to Bama, graduated from Bama, and ended up getting a job in the mortgage industry. Okay. So that's really kind of where real estate started for me. So that was back in 2004. And really from then, I was in the mortgage business for a couple of years. And then when we were at a subprime lender, that subprime lender, really in 2006, they started, not doing so well. They ended up letting everybody go throughout the country. So that was May of 2006. So I really had to figure out like what I wanted to do with my life, what I wanted to do with my career. And luckily, my future mother-in-law at the time was in real estate in Alabama, and I was just calling really for feedback, like, hey, I just got laid off. Don't really know what to do. And she's like, you know what? Why don't you just go get your real estate license? You'll talk to anybody. And I was like, I ain't got anything better to do. So, so I got my real estate license in 2006. So 15 years, fast forward, it's been a heck of a ride.
You didn't time that super well. I mean, 2006, I mean, you timed it right before going into a big headache there.
You know what? I look at, 2007, like I was a finalist for the Association Rookie of the Year in 2007. I just never really thought about it. I just worked.
That's amazing.
And, I try to like leave, what everything is going on outside and just stay really focused and do just a great job for my clients. And, now granted 2009, that really rocked, I think, about everybody's world. But, I tell you in 2009, I think that's really where I decided to make this a career. Because it was difficult. I think at that time, at least in Birmingham, the foreclosure market was like 43% of the sales.
Wow.
And so 2009, I mean, for people to get through the recession through real estate was difficult, but, I felt like it just made me work a little bit harder. It made me really focus on a great client experience. And, luckily the doors started opening for me and was able to grow my business from that.
Did you switch in that time? Did you pivot to like short sales and stuff like that? Or did you do traditional?
Yeah. I think when you're in real estate, you want to try to grab as much business as possible. One of the first things I did was created a top 10 list for investors. So every Monday I sent out an email, my top 10 recommended home purchases for the week. And what I realized from that is everybody thinks they're an investor, but really out of probably the 50 people I had on that list, there was probably 2 real investors. But luckily those 2 investors bought a few houses. But what that did is allowed me to kind of learn a little bit more about what investors look for in houses. It helped me evaluate those houses a little bit more. And, it's not like today's market where, you've got, if it goes on the market this morning, it might not be there tomorrow.
Right.
So that market was a little bit different. So you just got to figure out where the market is, currently and try to match that message.
What a great idea. I've never heard that before, is creating that top 10. Do you still do that today? Or was that something
No, I don't do it today. I don't think we even got like 10 foreclosures in the whole market in Birmingham right now. That might change upcoming soon, but you know what? I think everybody needs to have, at least if in real estate, you've got to have some sort of access to investors, because investors. I don't think that any investor is going to work with somebody that brings them the opportunity. So if folks, then if you bring them a deal, they're typically going to work with you. So I think it's important, no matter if they're, worked with other agents in the past, get to know as many investors as possible, because you never know what they may be looking for at that time.
Well, I think that speaks to, real estate. My belief system is that real estate's a relationship-based business, like most businesses, right?
100%.
And it's so much dependent on your sphere. Did you find, so very successful, 2007 is your rookie year, and you're, obviously rookie of the year. Was it
finalist?
Finalist. Okay. Let the record strike that from the record. Yeah.
One person would get upset with that.
So did you find most of your business came from your sphere? Was it, how did you prospect? Can you walk us through a little bit of your methodology of what you've learned from getting leads and where to focus and what you've done from that standpoint?
Yeah. No, I'm glad you said that. So, when I was in the mortgage business, we worked for a company that we had to dial for dollars. And so I had to either call 150 people a day or get 5 applications a day. Well, I focused on really good quality conversations because, quite frankly, I didn't want to talk to 150 people in a day. So taking that to the real estate side of things, I just really wasn't scared to call anybody or talk to anybody. And so, that started with really the foundation of your business, which is your database. And you've got to build your database. And so think of like everybody that's in your phone, they need to be in your database. So it's just contacting them and loving on those folks. And you never know who knows somebody that might be buying or selling a house. And one of the things that really helped my career, my wife was on the junior board for a local nonprofit called Glenwood which supports. Now I'm drawing a blank. Anyways, Glenwood, and so through our relationship working with them and giving back to them, we learned that they had access in 2009 and 2010 to the Neighborhood Stabilization Project, which was grants to get nonprofits and get housing for their clients. And so because my wife was on the board, they knew that I was in real estate. They knew I actually had some foreclosure experience. And so they opened up a big opportunity for me. They were going to get 6 houses as part of this project. And they asked me to be their representative to find these properties for them. And so through that, referral, giving back to the community, that referral, we ended up representing the buyer of the grant in the Birmingham market on 21 deals in 2010. So that one opportunity led to what we thought was going to be 6 deals. And actually we ended up getting 16 houses for Glenwood. And then we got some more for other nonprofits. So you just never know where a referral is going to take you. That's awesome. But I think since then, my wife and I have always kind of given back to nonprofits and being community based. And since then we've raised money for all different nonprofits, but we know that that's been big for growing my business. And so we've just always been real willing to give back to the community.
Yeah, that's an awesome strategy. What have you guys developed kind of a touch point system to stay in touch with your past clients to enable those referrals? Like how many times are you touching your database or your sphere throughout the course of a year?
Not enough. Okay. I mean, to be quite frank, I don't think anybody has the perfect strategy.
Amen to that.
What's that?
I said amen to that. Amen to that.
I mean, I'd love to say, man, we just kill it. But, I think that we do as good a job as we can. We could always do better. I think we always strive to get better. But I think one of the big things is we have a top 50 list. That top 50 list, we send out the, American Lifestyle magazine. And so it's got, my pretty little picture on my folks, but even my team members, we want to brand them as the expert too. So we've got everybody on our team. We send out top 50, the magazines. We also do client appreciation events. So we want to bring people, like we do pictures with Santa.
Oh, I love that.
We've had a tailgate at my house, actually. We've had for football season.
Yeah, I was going to say for Bama football. Is that?
That's right. Alabama football, SEC football.
How is that played off for you? I'm just curious because client events, I think a lot of people don't do them because of the spend. They get so conscientious of like, oh, it's going to cost so much money to put on an event. How's that paid off for you in the sense of just seeing the reciprocity of it over the years from what it's cost you and stuff?
Well, I think you've got to invest in marketing, and you've got to invest in, I mean, think about like in our market, there are probably over 4,000 agents. And so also know that everybody knows 7 agents. So you've got to be doing something different. You've either got to be the person that is either the expert, or you got to be the person that's that's top of mind. And so the one thing that you can do is the easiest way is be top of mind, whether it's through social, whether it's sending out postcards or magazines or inviting them to client appreciation events. I think you've got to be in everywhere. You've got to be in as many places as possible, but you also have got to, request referrals directly from them. If you don't ask for it, you don't ask for the business, not everybody's going to just raise their hand and say, hey, I'm going to give you the business. So, but I think it's an investment 100%. But think about we'll get people to just say, hey, bring a friend. We'd love to meet your friends because they could be potential clients. And then also each one of our clients are probably moving every 3 to 5 to 7 years. So we want to stay in touch with them and grow. As we grow as a agent, as a team, we're going to be growing with our clients.
How large are these events? With 400 plus transactions a year?
Well, here's the good thing. The big key of this is the invite. The biggest thing we want to do, the most powerful thing of all is just the invitation to the event, because everybody can't come depending on kids or, everything that's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, typically I think the biggest one we've had is like 250 folks. We had, I think, about 250 come through for a
big tailgate.
No, but that's
a lot.
It gives you the face-to-face too, which is so critical to solidify that relationship. And I think people underestimate that face-to-face touch. If you can do it, it's really hard to do face-to-face at scale, right? Especially when you have a huge database. I want to touch on something though that I think is a golden nugget that you shared that I am surprised so many businesses don't take advantage of, which is this idea of giving back to the community by supporting a nonprofit or being on a board or something like that. And we specifically have seen it work extremely well in your touch point marketing. So maybe, right, you're doing a postcard and your postcards are just listed. And then your next postcard's maybe a market update. And then the next one's a recipe. Throw in there one that is a supporting of a local charity that you support. Maybe it's a food bank. Maybe it's a local SPCA or something like that. The reason why it's so powerful, one, is it shows you're not just transactional, but then you're giving back to the community, which is, I think, where you had touched on. And then two, it also spreads a goodwill towards your brand that you can't, I mean, you shouldn't just support charity for the goodwill of the brand, but it really adds to that goodwill of the brand in a way that builds the relationship long-term. And I think that's such a golden nugget that people don't take advantage of. Like, what charity are you supporting right now? Or in your community are you giving back to? It could be Little League. It could be something at the schools. It could be an SPCA. It could be a local food bank, stuff like that. So you've built a massive team, right? How many agents are on your team now?
We've got 30 agents.
Yeah, 30 agents on your team, right? So I'm sure there's tons of stories you could share about the good and the bad of
and the ugly.
Yeah, and the ugly of leading team. Walk us through a little bit of like, how have you gone about going from you were a superstar agent yourself to first making the decision to add to your team, and what does your team structure look like, and how do you keep it rolling from a lead standpoint and closings?
Yeah, great questions. I mean, the whole reason I started the team is, well, first off, I started with an assistant and tried to maximize myself first. And then the next piece of it was I ended up having a rental company for a little while that we just brought renters to different apartment complexes. And that was actually a lead generator for us, where we helped them find a rental, and then all of a sudden we helped them find their first house. And so I was getting, all these leads from all these different places, and I couldn't be everything to everyone. So I decided to start a team. And so, luckily the first agent that, I brought onto the team was a great hire. And then also had other people that were in my sphere, past clients, started calling me saying, "Hey, like you're doing really good. Like, we want to get in real estate." So I brought on like friends, and I was like, "Hey, let's do this."
Wait, do you encourage hiring friends? Is that? I'm curious.
It depends on the friends. Sometimes your friends too well.
That's the truth.
But I tell you what, some of the best people we've hired has actually been our past clients.
Wow.
We've had both from an agent standpoint and an operations standpoint. So we've got multiple past clients, like our chief of operations, one of our closing coordinators are past clients. And we've got a few agents on the team. So, I think I think that's important because they've gone through the process, so they understand, our process, and they can, share that.
How do you keep them motivated and accountable?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
How do you keep your team motivated and accountable?
Yes. So, well, each week we do accountability groups.
Okay.
So one of my coaches is John Cheplak, and we run his accountability group system. And so it's 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off. We focus on commitments, not goals. So we focus on 2 professional commitments, 1 personal commitment. And what we've realized is it's not all about, professional life. You've got to have, one of the things that I've seen not only growing a team, not only growing a brokerage, is agents get really burnt out. And so what we've tried to do is really try to get them focused on what they're really best at, trying to get them, whether they get healthier or, we've helped some of our agents just build a plan to get there, get out of debt, stuff like that. So, we have game plans for, not only professional, but really personal. Many of our team members, it's kind of a work family. Some of our closest friends are people that are actually on the team. And so holding them accountable, we're doing it on a weekly basis. But I think, in real estate, people are pretty competitive. And they don't want to let, a lot of our agents don't want to let our other team members down. And I think that's an important piece of just having a good, strong culture.
Do you guys function as like you are the company that generates the leads and they work them? Do they generate their own leads? What's kind of your structure from a marketing lead generation standpoint?
Yeah. So, we generate, I don't know, about 1,000 leads a month.
Okay.
From all different platforms. And so we market the brand Gusty Gulas Group. And then, we're also marketing for our agents, to their sphere. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make them the expert to their sphere of influence. And so we're doing that, whether it's through a newsletter, postcards, or whatnot, the American Lifestyle Magazine, all those things. So I think we're trying to put them in the best position possible for referrals. So, obviously they're generating stuff on their own. We love that. We want, I think looking back at our business, I believe we're 65% of our business comes from either people we know, their referrals, or past clients.
It's amazing.
It's strong.
No, I've seen.
Especially with everything that we do, because we're on radio, we're on all the different portals. We do a lot of stuff. What
are you doing on radio? You have your own show? Or are you doing stuff on the market, or what?
Yeah, so we've got our own show on a news talk station that runs every Sunday morning, 7:30 to 8:30, and part of that, one of the segments on that is to talk about our new listings coming soon. But it's also to say, hey, this afternoon we've got a house open from 2 to 4. So we're generating, hopefully people that are going to our open houses. And that's also allowing me to meet, small business owners in the community, celebrating different small businesses, meeting some of our, mayors of cities, stuff like that.
What made you start that? Like, what was sort of the genesis of that idea? Was it just an opportunity that fell in your lap? Did you go pursue it?
I tell you, well, first off, I had that radio management major.
Oh,
that I felt like I finally my degree came back
you used
around.
It.
But no, I saw where a lot of the top a lot of top team leaders were advertising on radio, and so so we started doing that. I think in late 2016. And so we're currently on 3 stations. We're on a country station, we're on a news talk station, and we're on like a local independent station.
Wow.
And so we're just talking about, our success stories. So, then we roll that into a radio show.
I'm
awesome.
picking up the theme of like this idea of diversification. Like you figured out how to get you got your client events, you've got your charitable activities, you're on the radio, you're sending out your mailers. Like,
you can't get away
you've
from
gone with the omnipresence.
You're on the platform. I was literally going to say, you are so humble. It's so funny, like interviewing you, like very, very just like, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. And then it's like, well, we're generating 1,000 leads a month and I'm on radio. And it's awesome. Seriously.
I think like I've gone through the ego. I think if you're successful, I think at some point you go through some sort of ego, but I've gone through that stage and I feel like I'm very humble, and my job now I feel like is to bring others up with me. So I think, there's different leadership stages, and, I think you've got, running a team, I think you have to have a little bit of an ego, but it's not all about me today. I've got too many folks to support. I think like anytime that we bring on an agent or, we've got 30 agents, we've got 9 support staff. Like the things I have to think about now is like every decision affects, really 80 people.
Yeah.
And then their kids. So like that's kind of a lot on your shoulders.
No, 100%. I was listening to an interview with Jeff, the CEO of LinkedIn. And he really explained it well in this interview of like problems. And he goes, as you build out your company and it has more and more people attached to it, a simple problem becomes complex. Like it just grows tentacles. And I have found that to be true in our business. It's just like the more people, the more clients, the more it's just like, it seems like it should be a simple problem, but it's so complex because the ripple effect that it affects. I'm curious, like even for yourself, right? Because I know you've probably had ups and downs and all that stuff. How do you stay motivated? And then how do you get the new agent motivated? We've all heard the stats, 90%, 87%, whatever it ends up being that fail. Where do you draw motivation from, and how do you teach people to get to that motivation?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think I think what motivates me is I'm always trying to get better. I consider myself a student of the industry, and I'm not perfect, never will be perfect, but I always want to get better, or I want to be the person that always brings something new to our town. I'm not willing to, I always want to be the person. I feel like I have a target on my back, and everybody wants to beat me. I mean, when you're top team in the market for years, you're kind of the par that everybody looks at. So that's a lot of pressure to always continue to research, educate yourself, and really just make the best decisions for me and the team as we continue to grow. But I always think that we have to continue growing. I think if you don't growing, you're dying. And so we're always watching what everything's going on, and we want to be that team that happens. But we want, for our new agents, I mean, we want to be the best training, brokerage. I mean, think of a team as really a brokerage.
Sure. Yeah.
We want to be the best training in Birmingham. So I've got a sales manager. We're focused on developing. We've basically built a sales training, and now we're adding on to that and always kind of getting better. And so what we want to do is we want to have our agents to have a close in ASAP. I mean, that's the quickest way to, really for agent retention is, God, get them paid.
Making money, yeah.
I mean, that's the easiest. But a lot of people, I think you also gotta know who not to bring onto your team, because some folks just don't need to get in real estate. They don't either have enough runway, or they are not willing to put in the effort. So we're trying to, like, if it just doesn't make sense on the front end, if you can heed that off there, you're not going to have bad results once you get them into your system. So, we're not adding everybody that we interview. And
are you looking for something super specific when you're interviewing people? Like, I tell you, I'd
go for feel. Like, okay. I want to see how they are acting in person. I want to make sure that they're a team player, because obviously being on a team, there's no I in team.
Yep.
And so I'm just looking for people that I think are going to be a really good fit, and that can mesh well with our team, but also going to be a good representative of myself, a good representative of our team. Like, would you send this person to go meet with one of your clients? I mean, so that's one of the questions I kind of think about. Like, if you're not willing to do that, then why are they on your team? Yeah.
So much of it is chemistry. So much of it is energy. Like, it sounds terrible, but it's like, do they, like, and this is different probably in every role, but do they pass the beer test? Like, would you have a beer with this person? Like, would you be?
I like that. Yeah.
It's not that you have to be best friends with everybody you work with or something, but there is that synergy. Like, you can put Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant on the same team, and it could be a terrible basketball team because the synergy and the chemistry is not there, right? So it's interesting trying to find out, good people, and it's different for every position and different for the different teams. You mentioned that you had a coach, and I'm curious, like, do you have multiple coaches? Is that coach just that one coach? How long have you had him? Have you gone through coaching? What's your feel on coaching?
Yeah, I think it depends on where you're at, and different goals. So I've actually gone on and off with coaching with John Cheplack, and really it's focused on just kind of our circle. Is one of my long-term goals is to get to 1,000 homes sold.
Wow.
So he has helped people get to 1,000 homes sold. So it's a lot easier to have guidance and from people that know how to get there. So that's why we've done it. But it's also that it helps me be around some of the top performers in real estate and knowing what's going on in their areas. And then again, I can be the guy in our area.
Love that. So I got this question. I'm curious to pick your brain on it. I got this question the other day on a podcast to myself, but I'm getting it all the time. What do you think's happening in the real estate industry right now from a transition standpoint? And how are you going to adapt to the iBuyers that, and this is not a new thing, right? This has been years that we've been experiencing this, but it's coming more and more. What's your opinion? How are you pivoting? Are you of the transition that's happening? Even the virtual, you're now with EXP, right? And you've transitioned to the virtual brokerage. So there's that dynamic that plays, but there's a lot of companies. There's the Zillows out there that are getting more and more into real estate. There's the iBuyers. There's the Compass models. So can you give us a feel for where you think the industry's headed and what you're doing to pivot?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot going on. I had I had a top 4 independent brokerage in our market we had that business for 3.5 years, merged with EXP about 1.5 years ago. And again, reason we did that was I'm a student of the industry. I saw what was coming. That's why we made that change. It was better for my agents. And that's what that was the question I asked myself then. There's a lot going on. I think at the center of everything, it's still a relationship business. If you can provide value, you will get the business. If people want ease and convenience. So what we've got to figure out is how can we be the easiest agent to work with? How can we be the most convenient agent to work with? And if that's the case, we might have to be the iBuyer, or we might have to partner with the iBuyer.
That's
like
a golden nugget.
It has express offers, so we can submit a file and send it out to multiple investors and get bids. Or, hey, like I just closed on a flip that actually that was my appointment before this was we bought a house that couldn't have gone to market. We identified what the seller's needs were. We purchased the property, we cleaned it up, we put it on the market, we sold it. So that one was absolute ease and convenience. And so I think for agents to survive, you've got to just absolutely get better. You've got to become the expert. And you've got to provide just the absolute, like what I call stress-less experience. And that's how you survive. But I don't think agents will ever kind of, go away. I believe that, but I think we've got to up our game. I think we've just got to be just damn good.
Yeah. I love how you phrased it, the ease and convenience. I've often put it towards like the Amazon, Amazon, that is what they have done. They've made it easy. They've made it convenient. And if the consumer is always going to go there, so you have to provide that as a business. It doesn't mean you're going to be replaced. It just means you have to provide it. I kind of look at the industry and go, I don't know if you're super familiar with like financial services, but for people who don't know financial services, like you have firms like Bank of America and you have firms like Wells Fargo and you have the Morgan Stanleys. These are considered like wirehouses, big corporate conglomerates. Huge. They have advisors underneath them, obviously the banks. And those people, like you work for Wells Fargo, you work for Merrill Lynch, Bank of America. But there's also a subset of the market in financial services that's independent, where it's like they're still the financial advisor, but they basically work for themselves, but they trade through a bigger platform like an LPL Financial or something like that. I think the real estate market is moving more and more in that route. I kind of look and go, I think you're going to have big firms like the Bank of America with agents that work for them, the Redfins, but you're still going to have the dominant people, people that are the best in the game. No offense to the Merrill Lynch advisors and stuff like that out there, but the people who are the best in the game are the independent real estate agent, independent financial advisor that just leverage a big company for whether it's technology or something like that. So I think we're going to see a lot of that transpire over the next probably decade, but who knows?
Well, even on that, like I consider a real estate company to me as a risk umbrella. Like I'm the brand, like each agent is the brand, because I don't believe that the brokerages give you the business. So, I'm the brand, I'm the one that's pouring in the marketing dollars for us to generate the leads. But we've, strategically partnered with EXP because it was the bet, like it gives me and my agents the biggest equity stake. And so that was my focus, but it's brokerages are risk umbrellas to me. So, like if there's an issue, then I've got a broker and they handle the issue. And it's kind of like I'm Gusty Gulas, brokered by EXP Realty. And that gives me the flexibility because it's more about me and our brand than the main brokerage.
Yep. No, I think it's spot on. So we got to ask you, because you're successful, right? We ask every successful person that comes on the show. When you look at your life and the routines in your life, have you implemented any routines or structures that you really look at and go, man, I would encourage everybody do these routines. They've been successful for me.
You know, I've got a 5-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And so
all routines are gone.
All routines have blown up. But my most favorite routine was waking up at 5:15 every morning, getting my coffee, getting my mind right, 6 o'clock, doing a little bit of work, and then like 7 o'clock going to work out. Well, with kids, that really just kind of changes things. So, you know, at this point, like the non-negotiable for me right now is I've got to work out. And so typically after I drop off my boys at daycare, I'm going to work out. So that's the non-negotiable for me, because by the time, you know, like once 8 o'clock hits, and many times before that, I'm getting text messages, but I mean, it's like 8 o'clock hits, it's game time. Like your phone's going to be ringing, you know, you never know what curveball is going to be thrown. And so when I'm at the gym, it is my time, and I don't want anybody bothering me. And so I just turn on my hard rock music, get amped up, and that's my space. I don't really care what people look at me at the gym. They probably think I'm crazy. But you know, that gets my day going in a positive manner. And I'll tell you, like it, and also if I don't have my coffee in the morning, like just don't come around me. It's
Watch
bad.
out. Then you really are the crazy person in the gym.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, but are you the guy who like grunts that makes the loud noises? Or are you like the guy who kind of like bounces his head and is dancing? You know?
I mean, I'll do some dancing for sure too.
There's just one dude in my gym.
I've caught myself doing it. I'm
he dances after his like set or whatever, and I'm just like, this is hilarious.
Yeah, you know, it just depends on what you're listening to.
Yeah, you got to
have fun with it though.
That's great.
Gusty, last question. Knowing what you know now, you've built this big team. You're very successful. What would you go back and tell younger Gusty?
Invest in real estate a lot sooner.
This has been the theme lately when asking this question. It's on everybody's mind. Invest in real estate.
Invest in crypto now.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, geez.
Yeah, I just picked up a few more ones I never heard of yesterday.
I will for real. Like, I think people need to do a better job of financial education, because you know, we might be in good times right now, but that could change. I learned a lot through the recession. There was some not so pretty times. So I think financial education is probably one of the big key pieces that anybody should take advantage of. And knowing that, hey, you've got to run, especially in real estate, you've got to run it as a business. And I think that's when, no matter where I have been at in my career, or whether some team members leave or whatnot, I've paid myself a salary, and that salary really hasn't changed too much over the last 6 years. And through the ups and downs, it's having that salary and having that savings that saved my butt, and just running it as a good, strong, solid business so that we could weather whatever came our way. And even through the pandemic, I mean, like, you know, we just got our feet down, and first 30 days, you know, we just say, how do we adapt to whatever that market is? And just, you know, one of my favorite sayings I learned in college was adapt and overcome. And that's, you know, whatever you're going to get thrown, figure out know what the problem is, find a solution, go get it.
Love it. Thanks so much for being here, Gusty. Before we close out, let people know how they can connect with you.
Yeah. You can go to our website, GustyGulas.com. And you can also follow us on Facebook or Instagram, at Gusty Gulas or at Gusty Gulas Group.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for being here. Thank you so much for listening. To dive deeper into this episode, get those links that Dusty mentioned and the video for this episode, you can head on over to staypaidpodcast.com. If you're looking for ways to support the show, we'd love it if you just give us some feedback and take our survey. So you can find a survey at staypaidpodcast.com/survey. Also, to head on over to iTunes, throw us a 5-star rating, leave a comment to let us know what we're doing what we're doing.
Please tell us what we're doing.
Give us an idea of what we're doing here, of how we're doing. And the best way to help out the show is just to tell a friend. If you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can always email us at podcast@remindermedia.com. And of course, you can find us on social media. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
Guys, and I'm Luke Acree. And just what a great episode. I would encourage you. You just heard someone who is a superstar. I mean, 400 plus deals last year with their team, actually executing, very methodical. And what was so interesting about the interview that I encourage you to go back and listen is if you go back and listen and just try to pay attention to all the different avenues that this person is building their brand, that Gusty is generating leads from, you will see it's humble, but man, there is a lot of execution going on there. Here's the action item for you, because every episode, you guys know we want to give you an action item that you can execute on. The action item that I think all of you can execute on literally today is Gusty mentioned, look, this is a database game. This is getting in touch with your contacts. And he pulled up his phone and he said, every contact in this phone should be in your database. Ask yourself, do you have every contact in your phone right now in your database? And are you starting to network with them, starting to build a relationship with them? If you're not, that's what you should be doing. Remember, the difference between a top producer and a mediocre producer in every single industry that Josh and I have worked in is top producers take action. Take action on that today.